relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. The Cubs PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
Morning, morning, morning. How are we doing? Back on the podcast after a little bit of a short break. Who have we got in the house? We've obviously got Mr. Paul Van Bellen all the way from Australia. And we've got special guest and podcast OG, the original podcaster himself, Maciek in the house. How are we doing, boys?
Good, Benny, but I'm actually more interested in how you're going now that you have a new member of the family. I haven't spoken to you much in the last week or two. What's going on?
Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I forgot.
Is it? Oh, no. Why?
No, it's okay, chaos? But it's taken up a little bit more than I thought. She's a bit noisier than the last one.
No. Oh, no.
So, yeah, it's been like a reset. But it's all good. I can't complain. It's all good. Everyone's healthy at the moment, so that's good. But it's just took a little bit of adjusting. But I think I'm smoothing in now. Smoothing in. And obviously, just for people who are stumbling across this podcast, we are going to be talking about the PWA in Guadeloupe. That's why we've got Mr. Maciek in the house. I obviously commented on the Guadeloupe event, and because we just had our daughter, I actually did it remotely from here in Portugal. So it'll be interesting for you guys at home to tell me how that went. Did it work? Was it better if I'm at the event? Because from my side, it worked really well. And I'm not sure people would have known if I hadn't have told them I was still in Portugal. So Maciek, how are we doing?
Yeah, big up to you and to the live stream crew, and for putting out such a great broadcast. And technology is pretty amazing. I mean, it was only the camera crew on site, and actually the director Adam Sims, and the whole operation was remote,
in Munich.
Yeah, the actual mixing of the stuff, directing, putting, choosing camera angles, whatever, was in Munich, and then Ben was commentating from Portugal. So that's pretty eye-opening, that it didn't affect the quality of the broadcast in any way. If anything, was probably, we didn't race much, so that's a bit of an issue, but anyone I spoke to said it was probably, maybe the best broadcast so far. So that's really, really cool to hear. And the event, obviously, you don't watch much. You maybe watch your heats if you want to see your mistakes or what went wrong or how did the situation unfold. But everybody was pretty stoked. So that's
the only thing that could have gone wrong, which I don't know if you read about in the world news. It was quite big news over here, but we had a massive power outage, which basically took out all of Portugal and all of Spain. And there was talk of Morocco and even France at some point. I was it was kind of like a fully apocalyptic, weird scenarios. People queuing at petrol stations. The ATMs were massive queues because you literally couldn't pay for anything because everyone now uses their phone or something like this. So no one had cash. So all the ATMs were crazy. And I was thinking, if we'd have had that power outage, that might have been a whole different ball game. But that's I hope that's not going to happen very often because it was pretty odd.
I was landing in Paris while it was happening in the south of France. So that was pretty.
Did you have power out there?
Yeah. In Paris, there was power.
It's just mad that something, because I say something, can take out such a massive. How is the grid that big? Surely you would think there'd be some sort of barriers in place, or isolations of areas. I just thought that was mad. I was windsurfing at the time and I came off the water. I had a brilliant session and then everyone was going, oh my God, you won't believe it. There's some, and it was like talk of this plane crashing into something. You know, there's all these weird stories going around. And then since then, I don't know. I don't even know if they know how it happened.
Should we just turn this into a conspiracy podcast?
Yeah.
Probably get more views. Put our tinfoil hats.
I got one. I was going to bring it, actually. All right, let's get on to it. Guadeloupe, the first racing event on the PWA calendar of the year, like the big one. The first one with full points. Obviously no fin. I did see comments everywhere about there's still this barrier between fin and foil. It's interesting. We might go into that in a bit. But this is the first foil slalom event of the year. There's 4 events this year, as far as I understand it, which will be Guadeloupe, the first one. Pozo? Is it? No, so it's not Pozo. That doesn't happen.
No, for foil slalom, it's Guadeloupe, Silt, China, and Japan.
Okay.
And then for Slalom X, it's Pozo, Fuerteventura, Tenerife.
Oh, wow.
Which, like, some of those disciplines in the Canaries are still unclear. Let's say, like Fuerteventura, for example, there is a chance that we're going to have both foiling and Slalom X. And for those of you who are going to shout at the screen, why don't you just have both? It's a money thing. It's basically like the riders, us, the spoiled brats, we sort of don't accept to go for less prize money than simply double. So if we're going to do two disciplines, we're going to, we want double prize money.
So basically, at the moment, just for people who don't understand, there's a particular amount of money for prize money, and if they have foil slalom and Slalom X, like last year, the prize money gets split in half, basically. So if
last year we did Fuerte sort of as an experiment. We were like, okay, we talked in the slalom committee, like, okay, for 130% of the prize money, we can do 2. Just to satisfy the organizer and just to see how it's going to go. And how it went was basically like you flew in with 9-10 bags. You were de-rigging stuff all day, every day. It was a huge hassle and a huge advantage to the specialists that did one only, which you could see a little bit in the results. From time to time, I don't know, whatever. But so this year we decided that that if we're going to do both, we simply, we're going there for work. I mean, being a professional means that you're making money. And in order to do that last year, flying in with so many bags and whatever, you had to do exceptionally well in both. So
that works good.
The specialists were not happy either because, you do, like, Tati did a podium just on fin and Enrico did a podium just on foil, and they got pennies, So
no, but I think that makes sense. You got 4 foil events this year, 3 fin events, which I think keeps both parties happy. I think that's kind of works well. I think that I don't think there's a problem with that. And then, like you say, with the Slalom X, if you've got, the 3 kind of big Canary events as well, all on fin, people can kind of stay out there, I guess, for the duration, which also, is helpful for guys trying to do the tour. And even people flying in from other countries, they can kind of go, okay, I can just chunk this area all in one go.
And it's like, what do you want to see on fin? You don't want to see 12, 15 knot races, pumping, stop starting. You want to see high octane action. You want to see the sausage. You want to see the chicane. You want to see maybe beach starts or beach finishes. You want to see all those features that require, a certain amount of wind. And I think this speaks to what the comments were saying. In Guadeloupe, if we went with fin, we would struggle to finish a single elimination. This is the advantage of the foil. You take it to the most unlucky weather pattern we got basically for a while, you take it there and you still race, because Guadeloupe, it's a windy place. But if you get bad weather, rain, clouds, this type of stuff, the trades simply shut off. And this is what sort of happened this week. And the little wind that we got it from, from a pushing rain cloud, then it would switch off, etc., etc. So sort of more like North European weather rather than trade wind.
But in your board shorts, still pretty sunny. It looked. I mean, let's talk about Guadeloupe. How was the setup? Like from the live stream, from what I saw, it looked a great setup. Like right next to the race course, the beach, tents on the beach, like a couple of meters you're walking with your gear. I mean, that for foil racing has to be good.
Yeah, for generally as a contest, you arrive there and you're like in a resort. It's a hotel resort with a private beach for the resort, and it's just, you're in your room overlooking the water, and whenever you see any wind, you walk 50 meters to your tent, and then you walk like 10 meters to the water, and you're there, and then like the restaurant's right there, the bar is right there, everything's right there, like you don't even like need to move if you don't want to. Obviously the island provides, amazing tourism and adventures, and it's a beautiful place. But if you don't want to, you just stay there and you're really efficient, so it was pretty much the perfect setup.
Yeah, it looked good. Looked really good.
I was away for the event. Did a bit of a road trip up north. But who was the major sponsor? Actually, sorry, because I didn't really catch it. I just saw highlights, but I wasn't paying attention to that. But
as it happens with a lot of these events, we're a great tool for promoting the place through water sports and attracting people that do water sports are generally well-off people, active people, conscious people. So it's a great target group to base your tourism around. And as like, for example, in the Canaries for years and years, so actually it was the tourism, the diverse tourism offices, like the region of Guadeloupe itself. I think the event, the main, like the title sponsor was Riviera Guadeloupe, which is that strip of coast, which is like the Guadeloupe and Riviera. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's decent investment. Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Great. And as far as I understand, the contracts are signed for multiple years. So
that's what I heard as well. But there is talk about maybe changing the time of year the event was on. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, basically the best season is probably December till March or November till March.
So that was end of season.
And I think that, first of all, the first year, you don't want to put it too early because, you're organizing stuff till the last minute. Second of all, Tristan Algret, who's the organizer, and a massive shout out to him. He's an ex-rider. I think he stopped competing when COVID happened. He's about my age, actually a touch younger, so could easily be still competing. He knows how it is with the industry, the brands and the riders, like what the timelines are. And if you put the event in January, chances are that, half of the people don't have their gear yet,
Gotcha.
Because as you guys are well aware, but for people at home, basically the factories, they produce sort of year round, and it's like you book your place in the factory, but first you do the wave sails, then you do like the free move, freestyle, then free ride, and somehow slalom is always the latest one. It's
because there's never been so early events.
Latest.
Yeah.
So it arrives usually latest, to the shops, to the riders, to So then if you put an event in January, it kind of defeats the point of promoting the gear, right?
When did the gear come out this year? Just out of interest, because obviously I'm commentating on the event. You know, the first kind of thing I've seen of all the riders realistically was the first bit of live stream. So I'm like, they're coming down the first reach, and I'm like, what's that sail? What's that? You know, because like the GA this year looks different. Like I was kind of like it only took me like a run to work it out, but it was like, it's kind of like, oh. So was there any new gear that you didn't see coming, or you saw it all in the training, you know, from different brands?
The GA I didn't see in the training, but I saw it online. And like, shout out to all the brands, man. The gear looks spectacular. Like,
yeah,
if you see my background picture right now, like, you know, you have like a few of the sails, and like, well, Neil Pride especially, right? I mean, it's just like awesome graphics, and it's just such high, like a high-end engineering, you know.
Plus, talk us through, like I think it's a good opportunity, because there's probably some people listening who are into foiling, into whatever. Talk us through how the gear is this year. You know, from your own personal perspective, you can use other brands as well, but obviously talk about your own gear. What has been the changes since last year? What foils? Because obviously, if you've tuned into the racing, you'll know the Patrick do have quite, you know, in terms of foils that people are using. I think someone said in the comments 50%. Now, I don't know. I haven't done my due diligence or anything, but I'm guessing it's probably right. They've got half the fleet on Patrick foils. So obviously, maybe talk us through that sort of scenario. What foil are you using? What's your setup?
Yeah, I'm not very original. I use the Patrick foil as well, but this is a really good thing to like understand. For example, the R&D of the gear. The Patrick foil sort of came to the surface like late 2023.
Yeah.
So a lot of the gear for 2024 was already developed.
Okay.
You know, so you can't develop around this foil. You know, so you're gonna have stuff slightly differently. I give you a simple example. Like the Patrick foil is generally has great low end.
Yeah.
But in the high end, you kind of need to try to push it down and control it and have a little bit of downforce, have quite a lot of downforce. You know, some other foils have a little bit less power maybe, and then you want the sail to lift stuff up.
Okay.
You know, so for example, last year's Neil Pride is a sail that lifts up a lot.
Okay.
You know, and this year's sails are a lot more sails that are, you know, that are catered around the stuff that the foil doesn't do.
Okay.
You understand, like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So it's like, you know, when we were doing testing, we realized pretty quickly that some boards are suited to some sails. Some boards sit very low in the water. They need like a sail that lifts. Some boards sit very high and are flighty, and they need a sail that kind of pushes down. So I'm guessing it's very similar to the foils.
Very, very similar. Exactly. And the general idea is that the higher aspect you go, the faster you're going to go, right? Because that's just physics. So the longer the mast and the shorter the boom, the air is going to get stuck on the sail for a shorter amount of time. Therefore, you're going to go faster.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the board. You know, in theory, a shorter board, you know, will be quicker because you're getting that air glued for a shorter amount of time. But how the air releases from the sail, releases from the board, and how it enters the board and the sail is really, really important as well. And you know, we've gone from guys that are, let's say, testers of trial and error to guys that need to understand aerodynamics and need to understand the theory behind the gear as well, and look at America's Cup and look at Formula One and look at all those things which are further along the R&D route, you know. So it's super, super interesting, and there's a lot more than meets the eye, you know. The
So what's
racing
changed the most, would you say, over the season? Like this season, obviously we've seen the Nico Preen video about the JP board. Are you noticing big differences in the board?
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different concept. I mean, it's my first board that's 2 meters long that I ever owned, you know?
Is that what it is? 2 meters?
It's 2 meters long, yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's no nose on that.
There is no nose on it. So you're again, you need to sort of tune your gear around it, because, for example, that board being 2 meters, it's not going to have a lot of scoop, and it's not going to have a lot of lift, right? Because you're producing less power from that board, basically. So you need to understand it and cater your gear around it, curate your gear around it, not cater.
So who designed that board?
Werner.
I know Werner, but who was the testers? Who was like the main testers?
I guess it was Enrico Marotti and Bruno Martini. That's what
which is odd, because those two are not on the team anymore. Is that
but correct? you're doing R&D through like from May till October or September, you know. So you have no idea of your contract situation for the following year unless you're on a 2-year.
Yeah, that's crazy though. Like, I mean, maybe you can clear something up, because I never got the answer. Maybe I don't know. But Enrico Marotti obviously was on the podium last year. We're all expecting him to come out all guns blazing this year, and he doesn't turn up in Guadeloupe. So everyone's asking me, obviously, hey, Ben, but I haven't had an answer. So I've heard something, but I heard he stopped. But is that right? I haven't said that. This is the first time I've said that, but that's what I heard. Is he going to do the other events, or have you heard anything?
I've been trying to get on the phone with Enrico for like 2 months now.
Yeah.
And I know he stopped, let's say, but I don't know if he stopped for 6 months, for a year, for good. I don't know. I have no idea. And I also wouldn't want to, even if I knew, I wouldn't want to speak on behalf.
Because he hasn't said anything officially, has he?
No, he hasn't said anything officially.
No,
yet.
That's kind of why I haven't said anything. But then I'm like, is he still on Neil Pride JP? I mean, like
this, I don't know either.
No.
Especially the older you get, the more stuff you got going on, and the less you sort of look around and you more focus on your thing, And he has a growing family, and he has stuff going on as well. So I wouldn't want to speak for him.
Okay. I will keep digging. I will keep asking until I find out.
What foil do you use, Maciek?
Patrick.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So Patrick. So the Patrick foils. I mean, because it's you can obviously hold the thing in your hand and look at what the design of it is. Do other brands can just basically pick it apart and go, well, half the people are buying Patrick's. Why is that? And then, either basically duplicate it or try to duplicate it and do some improvements. I mean, why is it that the Patrick one has been able to hold the lead for so long? Are other brands struggling to duplicate what they've done, or what's the secret there?
Well, there's two things why that doesn't happen. The number one thing is that if you're copying, and you're always going to be a step behind, because that, like, for example, Patrick already has new stuff which is going to come out end of this year for the next year's season, So if you copy the existing one that's on the market, you're always going to be behind. And the number two reason, which if you listen to any of the podcasts I did with any designer, is that every single designer is 100% convinced that their design and their ideology is the best.
Yeah.
So designers generally, that's why designers generally don't copy.
They don't copy, do they? Their ego would not let them copy.
Okay. I mean, maybe copy is not the right word, but I mean, just, if 50% of the market is buying a particular product, I would have thought you'd go, well,
I'm going to test Maciek. Let's test Maciek. Okay. The top 10 results from Guadeloupe. Matteo Yukino, what's he on?
Patrick.
PM Mortafon.
Phantom.
Okay. Alexander Cousin.
Patrick.
Jordi Vonk.
Patrick.
Mardev Rieswijk.
Z Foil.
Oh, he's still on Z. Interesting. Maciek Rakowski.
Patrick.
Mattis.
Patrick.
William Hooper.
Patrick.
Mercer.
Phantom.
Okay, interesting. Sem Stroosmar.
Patrick.
Okay. Sasha Fortune. Yeah, I guess there's, and then Scotty. I think they're all on.
Well, that's more than 50%. I counted 7 Patrick, 2 Phantom, and 1 Z. Yeah, wow.
The question has been asked to me. Again, I don't want to make this a Patrick Foyle thing, but when there's 7 out of the top 10, there's definitely something in it. Amado Vrieswijk stick with Z. He's stuck with Z. But actually, Matteo Yukino has changed to Patrick. Amado,
yeah,
I am literally just coming at from an outside, no agenda here. I'm just looking at Amado. He seemed to still have those same inconsistencies. And then Yukino, I'm not putting this just down to the foil, but it's interesting. And Matteo has just gone turbo. He looks.
Yeah, but Matteo was on Patrick already last year. Yeah.
Was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was on Z.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The thing is, if you're sponsored and if you're sticking to it's like you either trust that you see there's a bit of a gap, yeah, and you either trust that together you can close that gap, or you go for the safe thing,
yeah,
where you're going to be a customer and maybe you don't get the best stuff, like Matteo, he buys his thing in the shop, like
really
the rest of us.
I was going to say that out of that top 10, I wonder who's actually sponsored and getting free ones, who's getting paid, and who's actually paying their own. But maybe there's a discount.
It's only the people on Patrick's sales and boards that are sponsored for the foil. So Alex Cousin, William Hooper. The rest of us, we're buying like any other, and you always have that creep of a doubt. It's like, do I actually have
the
what
top
the sponsored guys have? And there, look, whatever people think that there's something like a one design thing about, like, and it's the guy, not the gear. Like the whole Olympic thing is based around that. But anything which is laminated is always gonna have a tolerance, because there's a room with temperature, with humidity, with air pressure, with different parameters which change.
But interesting,
example, working with the same mast factory for like 6 years on Challenger, I could look at the date of the mast being produced, and the summer masts were softer than the winter masts because they use the same resin, but the humidity in the room is different.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's
what Patrick told me once, which I thought was really interesting. Patrick says a lot, but what I thought was really interesting is, or I heard this, I can't remember, it was a long time ago, but I remember him saying, we've designed these slalom boards. This is like 15 years ago, whatever. But he's like, they're better, but we're not putting them into production because in the production process, with this complexity of bottom shape and whatever, we can't guarantee that it would come out exactly as it is. So what we're doing is we're putting like a very good board in, but mainly because in the production process, this one can't be messed up, basically. And is that the same with the foils? Is there a certain design of foil, again, let's say the Patrick, that doesn't, even though there's tolerances, maybe because it's got more power, maybe because it's, whatever, it doesn't affect it as much, maybe because, you see Matteo Yukino buying that foil straight off the shelf and he's won every race. Or is he buying certain foils and trying different ones? It's interesting.
Yeah, he didn't buy with just one foil, yeah?
That's what I was
forced to buy, you know, 2 or 3 and choose whatever's best, because you can get unlucky. And yeah, generally it is like that board you mentioned. I was part of that development, and it was a single concave into V, which is a very difficult transition, you know, to measure.
Okay.
Because the center line goes
There's a very
one way,
specific. Yeah.
while the rails, the bottom of the rails, go the other way, right? So you have something like this, and it's quite hard to to measure. And foils, they don't have any straight. So QC of a foil is very, very hard, quality control, because it's a it's like how you say, like it's positive curve on one side, and then a positive into negative curve on the other.
Okay.
And there's basically no, like slalom boards are super easy to measure because they have 70 to 90 cm flat rocker in the tail. You know, maybe then they'll have tail kick behind the fin box, whatever, but they're really easy to measure. While anything which is round, like a waveboard, for example, is way harder to measure straight away, you know, because you can't put a rocker, like you can't put a straight edge. And so the same goes with the foils. You know, I can measure a million wings, but I can only measure thicknesses, and maybe I can measure bend, but like how they bend. But the profile is really difficult to get an exact idea, you know. So yeah, their composites will one thing composite to another is never going to be the same, never ever, you know. And
Okay.
this is just something you got to live with as
and
somebody.
What if you have to pick one key element of a foil? What is it? Is it the mass stiffness? Is it the shape? Is it what's the key for consistency? Because that's effectively what racing is. Yes, everyone can have moments of brilliance, but at the end of the day, when you've got 3 races and this many heats, you need to be consistent. You need to be something reliable. So I'm guessing something that's not moving. So stiffness must be a thing. Again, I don't know. But
yeah, right. I would say probably range. You know, range is super important. I mean, in Guadeloupe, we had clouds pushing, and you were never perfectly in tune. You know, never. But if you have something that has a wide window of performance, then you're good. You know, so range is super important, and you can get tricked, you know, really easily into thinking something is super fast, but it's super fast in a narrow window, you know. So you gotta, when you train and when you test, you gotta always have that in the back of your head. But yeah, comfort too, you know, and stiffness is comfort, because a stiffer foil is way more predictable, way more. You know, you'd think that maybe something soft is forgiving, but something soft will never be predictable, because water is not consistent. Water is there's
especially
always
with seaweed in it.
Yeah, especially with seaweed.
So that brings me on to the next question. So what the hell is Matteo Iachino doing this year? Because there was 3 races, from what I can understand. You were there. It was still on one day, so you know that can be a difference maker, how your brain is, how you're racing. But so it was one day. But from what I could tell from the interviews, he used 3 different sails in that day. So I'm guessing maybe different front wings. You tell me about that day, because he dominated. He won every heat and every final. I don't think there's been a competition where I've seen someone win every heat and every final with kind of up and down wins. That's interesting for me. Again, and obviously Pierre got 3 seconds. Like if Matteo hadn't been there, we'd all be going, "Oh my God, Pierre, he won every," you know. But Matteo, I thought was kind of on another level.
So to tell a story, you need to start at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
We start racing 9 meter. We're all on our biggest sails, so you know, between 8.2 and 9.0, right? Like I have an 8.7, Matteo has a 9.0, Pierre I think has an 8.3.
Right.
You know, so we're there. And we get to the final. And before the men's final, there's the women's final. And they go over early once. The wind goes from 10 to 14 knots. They go over early the second time, and Blanca gets hooked on the pin and actually like rips the pin out from the anchor. So there's a bit of a break.
Well, there's a delay. Yeah, there was a
There's a delay, and the wind keeps picking up, you know. By the time we go into sequence, it's probably 15 to 20 knots.
Yeah.
And we are on our 9 meters, which is you would be, if you could choose, you would be on your 6. I would be on my 6-7. Matteo would be on his 7 meter.
Yeah.
Last minute, like before we go into sequence, you see Cedric Board on Matteo's smaller sail come to the start line and give him the sail.
Okay.
You see somebody on a phantom sail come and give Pierre a smaller sail. You see somebody on a Patrick come and give Alex Cousin a 6-8. His 6-8.
At this point, you're thinking I should have been nicer to everyone else. I shouldn't have dug him out of the podcast.
At this point, you're thinking, I wish my team was still like 7 people like last year instead of 2 like this year.
You wish they were both in the final, or you wish you'd been nicer to Preen.
Yeah, Nico was probably filming, right? Filming his commentary.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah. No, I'm joking. I mean, there's nobody has any responsibility to do that. You know, if you think of doing something like that, great on you. But it's not that you blame somebody, because we haven't spoken about it. Nobody foresees. I didn't foresee Nico going out first round. Like, you don't really assume that. You know, you think he's gonna make one finals. You know, so I would never tell him, hey, if you caddy for me, if you know. So myself, Jordi, Daniele Benedetti, Amado, we get stuck on the 9 meters, you know, and it's fucking howling, man. It's like the guys that got the 8s, the 7.5s, the 8 meters, they were overpowered as hell, you know.
Yeah.
But Matteo nails the start on the pin. He doesn't have to worry about 5 of the 8 guys, because we're super overpowered.
Well, you had the big crash at the first mark. Amado went down pretty hard.
Amado crashes. I try to avoid him. I crash. Somebody else avoids and goes super wide. I think Jordi, whatever, you know. So, and then when you win a final, you know, you definitely get confidence.
Yeah.
You know. And then the following round.
But bearing in mind, he has won the quarterfinals and the semifinals as well. It's not like
but let's say that you have probably 5 guys, 5-6 guys that you realistically think, if they get a same start as me, they might be a problem. They might be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't really fear 32 guys as much, as cocky as it might sound, but you do your preparation. You also sail before the event. You see more or less who's fast, where I am. Obviously, like, I never went out before the contest on my best gear. Like, if I was testing masts, I would put my worst foil. If I was testing foils, I would put my worst mast, battens, whatever, But still, you see more or less. And I trained with Matteo in Tenerife, and I knew that he's fast. I knew that he's somehow, his gear or whatever preparation he did, he's quicker than he was last year. You know, definitely, like, you could definitely see that. But, you know, he gets the right sail. I'm 100% convinced that if he stays on the 9, he doesn't win it, because there's other guys with good gear, you know, with the right sizes, you know. And then we do the second elimination on our 6-8s, 6-7s, 6-5s, whatever people have, right? And we get to the final, and the final comes, and Matteo, I guess he doesn't want to go crazy, so he actually gives up the pin to Jordi, and Jordi goes really early, and we to the point where he's slowing down as we start. Okay. You know, and I'm on top of them both, and I come from behind with speed, and I nail the start, you know.
Yeah.
And the general recall comes in, you know. So I'm like stressing. I'm like, oh shit, maybe I went over early. And then we go back to the boat.
That was the nobody over.
Then we go back to the boat, and Ben Vandersteen, who's the lineman, the PRO, he says, I was sorry. I was sure Jordi was over by eye, but I checked the replay and nobody was over. I'm like, Benny.
That's annoying.
You know, I was like I was like
gone. I remember that actually. I remember saying that, because that's annoying, isn't it? You ping it, you're like, you know, it's no one's fault. It happens, but it's hard to take because you've done everything.
And Matteo was nowhere because he bet on Jordi, thinking that he fully slowed down because he thought Jordi was going over early.
Yeah, I got you.
You know, and then we restarted, and Matteo nails it. You know, Matteo nails it, has a great race, wins it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to diminish anything.
No, but all racing comes down to moments.
Need to come together in a certain way for a performance to look the way it did.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because on paper it looks ridiculous.
Yeah, like on paper it looks like the guy came and he was like Antoine Albo 2005. You know, where he would just start
anywhere and win.
Yeah. Start 2 seconds late and still be first on the mark.
No, he nailed every start. Honestly, every start he was on it, and Pierre as well. To be fair, they just looked. They were the most consistent. Obviously, it shows in the results, but I think it really shows in the results. Whereas actually, just watching, you were like, these guys look very solid, like really just business. And again, that day was one day, and when you're on it in the day. You know, and again, you guys started with the first final not going well, and that already gives you that.
Exactly.
This like you're then on a bit of defense, like a bit like, oh fuck, I've got to be a bit careful here. Like, you know, it's kind of interesting. I didn't know actually the difference.
Because then on the second final, I sort of overdone it. I overpushed and hit a bit of weed, which if I wasn't pushing like 100%, I would have survived, and I crashed. So this thing of changing the sail, it really
like a ripple effect.
Yeah, it sets you up. And then that thing of the start, where if that start happens, he's probably 4th, 5th to the mark, and he needs to come back, which he's really good at.
Yeah,
but he still needs to come back. You know, you never know how that's gonna play out. You know, maybe somebody has a weird jibe, crash, whatever. You know. So, you know, it is, and then the thing of winning every heat, I was not aware. And
well, that's what I got told. I didn't remember it, but I got told afterwards because we were talking about him winning every final.
Yeah,
and I think Sarah
and
Jackson.
We had a few heats together, like on the last elimination, and the one that we ran but didn't happen.
Yeah,
where like I would come to the first mark first, jibe super safe. And he jibed like perfect, like it was a final, you know? And I'm wondering, like, why is he pushing on a quarterfinal? And then I got told, you know, like he won every single heat, you know?
Yeah.
So he obviously had that in his mind, like, let's try and win every single heat.
Oh, Maciek, how often before a race, a few minutes before, does the situation come up where you think, oh, I'd like to have changed sail right now? Like how often does that happen?
In Guadeloupe, probably
like just in general when you're doing all the different events and things.
In Guadeloupe, it happened probably like 50% of the heats where you were on the wrong gear.
And what about other events where
other events normally it doesn't, and normally you also know the place, like you know that you know that the early elimination Fuerteventura, the wind is going to be picking up. So you're comfortable to go on a smaller sail maybe. And you also know that the last afternoon elimination in Fuerteventura, the wind is gonna be dropping, you know, so you're really aware. And maybe if you have, first of all, if you have a caddy, but if you don't have a caddy, then maybe somebody that's already eliminated can grab the other sail and go with you to the start of the final, you know, because you're expected to be in the final. And yeah, so yeah, generally, yeah. And the last final also that counted, Pierre actually was first to the mark. I got super light and he had a little touchdown, you know, that was enough. So Matteo basically used all the opportunities that were given to him, let's say, you know. He used 100% of the what was dealt, you know what I mean.
How do those guys communicate to the beach that they needed to change sail? Like how
they don't. That's the thing. Like that's the thing, that these guys that came out were guys that were watching the race, were already eliminated, were watching the race and saw it by themselves.
I see.
You know,
so they worked it out.
Which was clear to see, because the biggest sail is a sail with quite a narrow range. Well, it has a big range, but the minute you can be on a smaller sail, you're so much faster.
Yeah.
You can put a smaller wing, or at least less power in the foil.
Less drag. Yeah.
Also, okay. But these guys, they just changed the sail, right? The board and all that was the same,
the
right?
sail, the sail is massive amounts of drag. And the big sail is really like a powerhouse. It has to be something that drives you through crap, you know, through a 5-knot hole, you know. And then, you know, so then in a 20-knot gust, it's not gonna hold up very well, you know. So it is, as I said in the beginning, there's way more to racing than meets the eye. And I didn't tell this story to in any way diminish Matteo's performance, because it was amazing. I told this story.
No, but it's interesting to hear that. I think
understand what actually goes in to the 0.7 that's on your result sheet, you know.
I mean, like I've said this many a times, like, because some people say, is it a fair result because it was 1 day out of 5? But I think it's really hard to argue it wasn't a fair result. It's definitely a fair
That's result. Who you ask, right?
Well, no, but like sport is about moments anyway. So this isn't one moment like a 100-meter race. This was still, you know, 3 heats, you know, in each round, and 3 rounds in a day with wind that was up, down, left and right. So you can't fluke it. It's not like you can have moments of luck and things that go your way, but that's sport in general. But you can't be lucky to win. I mean, you just don't win like that. It just doesn't happen. So there's no way that he got lucky. You know, like
let's say this
like
is
could a different guy win if they had a different day? Yes, but that's the whole idea of sport and being on the game with the moments, with the caddy helping you out. You've got to have those things that all come together in that day. So I just think it's harsh, me personally. I know you guys don't agree, that 3 eliminations is less points than 4 eliminations. To me, I don't see the difference personally. That, you know, because let's say one more elimination would not have changed the result at all, because Matteo just discards it. So it's like, well, how is it less points? Because he didn't even need to sail the next elimination. So then for me, it's like, I don't see why it should be less points in the overall. Like, again, from my point of view.
Yeah, in this case, you can definitely argue that, but there's way more. This rule came from back on the fin, when we had one elimination events count the same as a 10 elimination Fuerteventura. And what's the cutoff number? Is the cutoff number 3? Is the cutoff number 4?
That's the problem. So for me,
it naturally went to where the discard is.
But that for me is like, why is 3 races and 1 bad race better than 3 good races? Like, that's the bad cutoff for me. I don't think it's a good cutoff.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I do see what you're
rule.
saying. When you look at when you look at the extremes, like 10 amazing races versus 1, but then that's kind of the cool thing about it. It doesn't. I don't know. I like it being level, and I know that sucks because you get the credibility. If you do well out of 10 races, you still get the credibility within the sport. People get to see you more often, but to have less points, I don't know. I don't think it works as good. But
yeah,
I see what you mean.
I don't really. I stopped because I'm a guy that gets like intense or emotional about a lot of things, and I just like, this is the part of where I just like said, okay, this is the rule. I'm not really bothered by it. Whatever, we play by the rules. The rules are the same for everyone. It is what it is. For me personally, having, let's say, a quote unquote bad result there, I don't know if it actually helps me, that rule, or it actually like hampers me. I don't know. But for a guy like Matteo, it's definitely, this first place there counts like a 4th in an event which has 4 or more eliminations.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, you're battling. You have a point advantage to Pierre.
Yeah.
You have 2 points advantage to Alex. So in a way, it's always the same.
Yeah.
Who it really helps is the guys that for some reason, one reason or another, didn't go to Guadeloupe, which is, for instance, Johan So and Nico Goyard.
Yeah.
So these guys, it really, really helps.
Well, it helps because the thing it doesn't help is if there's one event that doesn't happen this year for whatever reason, no wind or something, then it doesn't make any difference anyway. Because you have to count all 3 results, so it doesn't matter whether it's 1 point. If it's a quarter of the points, it wouldn't make any difference. But if like you say, these guys can discard this and use the other ones, then it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because what could happen if Matteo is inside the top 4 in the other events, he doesn't even count this first place.
Exactly.
It's kind of weird, but
can't help myself because I know you guys think of every detail and you're very fastidious with all the equipment, but this issue about changing sails, was it just not an option for you for future finals? Like you can't actually find someone to help you there, or like what's the issue there?
Yeah, for future we did, like on the very last elimination, Ben was actually commentating, and I saw it. I saw that bit, and there's like a drone shot, and like everybody's double.
I see. Okay, I didn't see it. Okay, yeah.
There was a lot of people out there. You were like, "What's going on?"
Because by that time, they said everybody who's eliminated from this round can pack up.
Out.
So all of a sudden you have 16, 18 riders who are basically doing nothing. It's 1 p.m. They are packing up, they're whatever, chilling, whatever. So you just grab somebody, and shout out to Lars Pogerman who caddied for me. In the end, we didn't use it. I didn't use it, but he was there, and it gives you just so much comfort that if the wind picks up.
It used to be a big thing. I always remember Finney and Maynard and these guys would pay percentage of the prize money to their caddy, especially in places like Silt or where it's really hard to come back to the beach and change. I mean, it looked like over there it wasn't such a big deal, but still, if it's tight and you've got to make a split-second decision, which it was changing by the minute, wasn't it, basically, in Guadeloupe? So that is when you need that caddy. But like, it used to be a thing where percentage of prize money there was a lot more prize money back then and people were on money, but it was a thing. Even stickering people's sails, people were getting paid to do, and all sorts of stuff like that.
Is there any argument for just, I mean, look, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe it's a completely stupid idea, but would there be any argument for saying there's a rule where once you're on the water and there's a cutoff, I don't know, 5 minutes before the start or 10 minutes or whatever, it's like, that's it. The gear that you're out there with, that's the gear you're using. Is there any argument for that?
Remember that any rule you put in, you need to be able to police it. So 5 minutes before is really hard. We have
whatever, I don't know. Yeah.
2 minutes before the start. So it's within yellow flag, you're not allowed to change. and that's then quite easy for the guy on the start to see, because he only has 8 riders to pay attention to. But the one thing where you can just put it fully on the rider and not really favor the ones that have a caddy is just ban it completely. Yeah, but this is something, I don't know. This is something that was discussed a few times. I don't know. Like, coincidentally, the last event I won, I did have a caddy, and it was an event with changing conditions as well. I didn't end up using him much, but he was there on the start line every heat with my smaller wing and my different sail. So
Mr.
I don't
Finn
know. It just gives you a sort of great headspace, to have all those bases covered. But the reality of the sport is that nobody's going to go for 10 or 20% of your prize money, because it's just not enough money. So you actually got to invest. You need to fly the person in, or find a local person, pay a daily, accommodate the person, put food on the table, and right now most people are struggling to make ends meet, to do the tour for themselves, let alone
or you just convince someone who you know is not going to get through the first round. Come on, you're going to be good, man. You're going to be great. You're going to be absolutely great. Oh, out again. Well, you can bring
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, it's interesting to learn about all this, Maciek. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's really good to have this platform, because I think it's nice for people to dive in deeper and understand all the intricacies and everything, every single piece of the puzzle that goes into a performance like Matteo's, or goes into lack of performance like mine, or whatever,
I have a question. So, you're there in Guadeloupe. There's a couple of things that I'm asking, because, when you're in the commentary, you're sitting from an outside looking in. I want to know from you, who's been kind of the surprise, any surprises that have gone faster, they've gone better, they're racing well, anything like that happened, which we might not have seen. I think there's a couple of names that spring to mind just from the commentary, but it'd be interesting to hear your sort of inside scoop there, because sometimes you can be going really well, but it doesn't quite pay off. Like, if you look at the results, you could look at your results. I don't think it does look that bad. Same with Amado, but you can see with a little bit of difference, it's there battling for the podium. And then you look at Alex Kuzan as well. It's kind of interesting, because he was battling sometimes to even just make the quarters at one point, or the semis, and then he ends up obviously in the top 3, which I thought, maybe, he raced really well, and no doubt about it. But, if you look at how the races went, they could have gone very different very quickly. So I thought that was a really impressive performance from him. Strosmar was definitely looked like he's come to challenge a little bit more this year. I don't know. Again, Jordi Vonk was mentioned by quite a lot of the sailors in the podiums. Like, again, I haven't been at the training or not, but for me, I thought, well, that must mean he's been going well in training, because the year before he wasn't mentioned when people talked about top 3s at the end of the year, and he does end up this event in 4th. What's your take on any of those guys or extra guys? Let me know.
I try not to, let's say, pay too much attention to other people, just focus on myself. But you do notice, and I knew Jordi was fast from the training.
Yeah.
But I think every sport has their like little culture and little things that they pay attention to more than, let's say, should be.
Yeah.
And I think in our world is a little bit, we lean towards the fast guys having a huge advantage, and we have a goldfish memory in terms of what actually wins events.
Yeah.
And what wins events, smart racing, consistency, good starts. Yeah, you got to have the speed at the base. But I think without a shadow of a doubt, I can say I was top 3 quickest to the first mark in that event. But, you know, you're still missing a lot of other stuff, you know. So I think that's the one thing that surprises you. Every start of the season is like, like how many things you need to tick off to actually, you know, to actually put yourself in those at the top of.
Is it very frustrating for you thinking the next event really on the foil slalom is silt? Because I remember when we did the Lancelin Ocean Classic, it's one event once a year with one start. And you wait, some people wait all year for this event. And then they trip over on the start. They get stuck behind someone. They fall off or something. And it's over. It's like, it's over. And you're like, oh, got to wait another 12 months for this event to come all the way back. So like, I'm guessing, you know, do you want 4 events a year? Do you want 2 events a year? Do you want 1? Do you want 8? Do you want what's your take on that? Or are you happy with how it is at the moment?
Well, I want the next event to start tomorrow because I know that I have the performance in me, let's say, or in my gear, or in, you know, I have the package to fight for the win, you know. And what sucks with the next foil event being in 4 months or 5 months is that the people that don't have that performance, they have time to catch up. So you put in all this effort in the winter, you were early with everything, you invested money, you invested time, and now perhaps, you know, people realize certain things around the race course that they need to do. At the same time, you're in a good position that you can also, you know, I still have a lot of patterns I want to test. I still have, you know, masts coming. I still have, you know, stuff that I can improve. And so it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's the same for everyone, you know. If you're Matteo, yeah, you're probably happy, you know, you took that opportunity and
the more I think about this opportunity, the more I think if those next 3 events have more than 3 eliminations, this event is almost worthless in terms of world title.
Yeah.
You know, like it just realistically, if it's a 4th, you're not probably going to count a 4th for a world title.
Yeah, but would you rather go back?
No, maybe.
Go back
maybe
go back 10 years into world titles and see who didn't count a 4th. Last year
for a first, not for a podium, for a first, for a win.
I know, but it doesn't matter. First of all, it's a 4th that nobody.
But do you not think a 4th is easier to get than a first at this event? A 4th at another event is probably easier for him to get than a first.
But you're forgetting that you're putting points between you and your competitors, unless everybody discards it. But it doesn't work that way.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If the next 3 events have 4 or more eliminations, Johan So comes back, Goya comes back. You never know. That 4th might be really valuable. But if it was a first, it would be that's the best you can get. But essentially, he has kicked off with a 4th. And if those other, it's a lot of ifs, because if the next 4 events, they've got all more points, there's going to be 3 places higher on all the other events. But again, the only way this will work out is if when we analyze it at the end of the year to see if this first here, which is effectively a 4th, if that's a big deal or it hasn't made any difference. And then I think that rule could be looked at, because I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I'm also thinking from a spectator's point of view. You know, when you're on the inside, like you, Maciek, or whoever, you know, you can dissect all these rules and it makes sense to do this and that. But for the average spectator trying to follow this, like in my head right now, I'm trying to do the numbers and go, oh, okay, so there's now a 4th, and how does that work? You know, against the others, and it's a bit complicated from a spectator's point of view as well, isn't it? Even though it may not be fair, even in a brutal world, right? Yeah.
So no, sorry. Just while you were talking, my brain just went ping, and I'm like, the best way to do it is like you say, Paul. Everything stays the same, but then if it's a tie break, it comes down to, something like this. The tie break makes sense. There's a weighting on a tie break situation for the guys that did better with the more eliminations in an event,
right?
But it would only work in a tie break when people are level.
You mean at the end of a season?
I think it does because what you're counting on a tiebreak is who beat who the most, which if you weren't at that event, if you're first at that event, then you have that in your pocket already. You beat everyone. So
because the other thing too is, let's just say worst case scenario, you have an event and all you can run is one elimination, and some guy who never wins, he's always a back marker, just happens to win that event because everyone falls over. And everyone's like, "Oh, this is unfair." This guy never wins. But it's like from an outsider's perspective, you're like, "Oh, well, that's cool." Like this, some guys just had the moment of his life or something. You know what I mean? Like just some weird thing.
Yeah, look, it's a boring take, but there's a balance to everything, and there's a certain, like in waves, you get less points if it's only a single elimination than if it's a double. And most people.
But again, but I don't agree with that either. To me, it doesn't make sense.
No, but hold on. Are you talking about like the single elimination with the dingle, or?
No, I'm talking in the old system. Let's say that in the PWA you didn't really use dingles.
Okay, but we're talking about now though.
Now I don't know. Now I'm not tapped in enough to understand, but I think the dingle is worth as much as a double.
I'm pretty sure it is, isn't it, Ben?
I think to me, you've got to make it everything's the same. Otherwise, it does get confusing. And I'm a mega fan, commentator, everything. And I'm like, oh, you've got to tell them that event in Guadeloupe where he won every round is worth less points than.
Well, it's like I think you mentioned the 100-meter dash, Ben. I mean, how brutal is that? Like, there's just one race. Yeah. And the guy could trip over himself at the start and everyone could feel sorry for the bloke. You go, oh, well, that's that. You know what I mean? Like that's way more brutal than anything else, isn't it? So, look, I don't know. I'm not saying I've got the answer or this is how it should be done, but I'm always trying to think of things from a outsider's perspective, like spectators, like what is it that's going to draw them in? What is it that they're going to understand? Because if you get too crazy. Well, yeah, I mean that one was pretty simple, but anyway, look again. It might not be a great idea, but that was just something I thought of as we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides. As I say, it's not a very. I should fight you guys now, and for this, if I was a good podcaster, good journalist, I should fully go against you now. But I see
it's like a Piers Morgan thing. They're all just shouting at each other.
Yeah. What do you know, Ben? Your foot has never stepped on a foil. What are you like? You're freaking short and light. What do you know? Like you.
The thing is, I have lots of different takes, and I know they're not what the riders think. The whole light wind thing. I said it quite a few times, and I know it pisses a lot of people off. But just from a spectator point of view, it's kind of hard to understand when the top guys are still going and they call it off, and you're like, oh, okay. But I get it. I also understand it's a bit. But then you look at the Olympics and they've tried to change that for the better, and that's just shit. Like it just doesn't work. Doesn't work in sailing. The more I thought about it would work, and it's the same with surfing. It doesn't work. Some guy has basically nailed pipeline, nailed like onshore, nailed this, nailed that, and then they do one event, and it's like he's the better guy, and you're like, it's happened to the women's champion lots recently, Clarissa Moore, I think. And she's lost out. And you're thinking she was easily the best surfer. Like, yeah, I get it for a world championship. They do it in bike racing. I know I don't want to sound boring because I've said this before, but in bike racing, they have a world champion, which is the UCI or whatever. And it's like a one-off world championship. And then they have a world tour champion, which is lots of different events. And they're both equally prestigious. You know, the World Tour is the one really everyone wants to win because it's obviously lots of events and there's lots of World Cups. But the World Championship is still this standalone kind of one. You know, famously, Steve Peat never won the World Championship till like the end. You know, and it was kind of a thing. And that World Championship, I don't know. I think it could be looked at.
Look, the nice thing in sports is that over the course, especially like in a sport like windsurfing, you can have a 20-year career, 25-year career. Over the course of your career, those things, they even out, you know? Like if you have all the tools and you have the right mindset, you sooner or later it's going to happen, you know? And this is what you're seeing right now. In 2019 was the last fully fin year. Then COVID happened. And then when the tour restarted, it was a mixed foil fin tour. So these two guys that worked their asses off to get to the top in fin, they felt like they had the rag swept from under them, and maybe they didn't perform as well for a few years, you know?
Yeah.
But in the end, what wins you events, world titles, etc., is your mind. You know, it's about so you can see the championship mentality. That's why you see like people, let's say, succeed in different disciplines or succeed in different areas of life, because in the end what matters is your mindset, you know.
Yeah.
On different gear or different ways too, you know. Like the best guys, they can win being the fastest, but they can also come back from behind. They can, you know, overtake you on the exit of the jibe, overtake you on the entry of the jibe. And you know, I know myself that if I'm in the right mindset, if I'm on rhythm, I feel nobody can beat me, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just about maintaining that mindset through the longest possible period of time and getting yourself into that window, you know. And so all in all these rules, all this, you know, yapping and moaning about this little thing that happened, that little whatever, it's like nobody remembers that after a while.
No, but they definitely don't. They definitely don't. That is the thing. It will just be the numbers on the paper that people remember. They don't remember it. You remember it, but they won't remember.
I don't.
That's
not anymore. Like
well,
I can't. I remember like in 23, leading throughout the entire year. I remember like 5 things have to go wrong for me to lose the world title, and 6 things went wrong. But if
that's what I'm saying. You remember it, but I don't remember it.
If I have to list now the 6 things, I don't really remember all. Like, okay. You know what I mean? It just
no. But what I was saying is, you will remember you were leading the whole year, but not everyone will remember that. They will look back, look at the results, and go, "Oh, he came, you know, wherever." And that's the thing. What I'm saying, as a rider, you will remember you led the whole friggin' year, and you were like, "Shit." But like whether you remember the individual bits is another thing. There's a comment here from Christopher saying, hey guys, hope you are fine. Question, Maciek, one question. How hard is it to have all the riders having a Headcam on and getting additional footage, exciting perspective after the race, during and after the race?
It's not hard to wear a Headcam. What is hard, I think, is transmitting that to the live stream. I think that's hard. That's the hard.
It's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, with money, everything is obviously possible. But when you add water into the mix and you add just personnel to charge cameras, make sure everyone's got it, make sure it's all working, it isn't as easy. I think it's cool for riders. There is something to be said that all riders should have to wear it. If you're wearing a helmet, you should have to have a camera, because then that footage can be used by the editing crews to make cool footage. I think that's cool. But I think live, it's actually worse for me commentating, if I'm honest with you. It's, you know, I use it often, you know, horse racing. You don't have GoPros on the fucking horses looking at their teeth and their eyes. Just, you know, you might have it in a feature film or something, Black Beauty, and you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. But you're trying to commentate on a horse race, and then you've got this horse going, It's like, oh my god, this horse, and so you don't need it. But afterwards,
it's like probably what 85% of a footy game is from one camera. And I noticed, like with you, Ben, that when there's too many angles, you kind of lose track of what's going on. So there needs to be a balance, and our sport goes really fast. There's no time really for like Formula One, there's 50% of the race, nothing's going on. So, let's look at this onboard. Let's look what happened there. And if there's incident, you have place for 10 minutes of replays and people talking about it. But
I mean, for people who don't know, the way the commentary works for me anyway, is I'm looking at it, what's happening, but I'm also looking what's coming and what's going to play out. So I'm already going, okay, these guys are going to get there. I'm going to get there. So I talk about them and I'm ready already. I know Amado's just coming into the jibe, let's say, late. For example, the one that's been on social media, really good jibe from the outside. If then you change the angle and I look, ready to go, who's that? And it moves, you go, oh shit. And you've got to reorganize yourself to understand where in the race you're at. Whereas when you have like an outside view, which is why for me, the drone is amazing because we see spaces, we see that, and we can just sit and there's certain angles that a drone are at, makes it easy for me as a commentator to already be like picking what I'm going to say next and building tension and stuff like that. So, it might seem cool changing all the angles, but for commentary, it's really hard to be spinning it around.
Yeah. Right on. I mean, I was going
to say there's a few other comments here, Benny, maybe we should get through as well.
Yeah, go for it. Quickly go through them.
Can you please explain why the season of foiling seems a bit slower than last year and the races are closer together, or am I totally wrong? Maciek?
Well, what you've seen, moin moin, first of all, that's a North German thing, I guess. What you saw in Guadeloupe, 2 out of 3 rounds we were on our biggest equipment.
Yeah.
So that's obviously not as fast as Fuerte. We were going like maybe 20,
7 knots, wasn't it? I heard 7 knots.
Yeah, it was super light.
6-7 knots, like in some of the lulls.
Yeah, I think realistically we start racing when it's like 7 to 10, 8 to 11, something like this, So then obviously, it feels slow motion as well. You're like, why am I not going? But then the other guys are going the same speed. So we were doing like 27, 28, 29 knots on the first reach, and then you jump on the 6-8, and straight away it's like you look at the watch, you're like 34.
Wow.
It looks slower because that particular event was slower. Racers are closer together. I think the level's quite even. You have guys you mentioned, I don't know, Sam Struzma, that last year, maybe hardly made any loser finals. Now he was in a couple finals, whatever. You have people stepping up. It was funny, like Tristan Algre, he quit the tour in 2019. That was his last year. And we arrived there and he didn't know like 80% of the people.
Yeah.
Like we're now, like I'm 33. I'm like the older statesman, there. Like Matteo Pierre is older than me. Alex Couson is older than me. Cedric Board. And that's maybe about it,
Yeah.
Jordy's like a year younger than me. Amado's a couple years younger. He's like 30, 29, whatever. So there's a lot of new guys, and these guys for now, they're finding their way, but very soon there will be challenging, so yeah.
Andre Ust, Maciek, what do you think where the most progress in development is gained, sail, board, or foil?
Look, it's 0.5% here, 1% there, 1% there, and at the end of the day you get to 5%, which on a 500-meter reach is 25 meters, right? So that's a pretty big freaking gain. 25. Nobody wins the first reach by 25 meters, and that's only 5%. And so we're really splitting hairs to get few percent here, a few percent there. And it really differs because for me, from last year, for example, the sails, I really wanted to improve the range, the upper end of the sails. The boards, I didn't know what sponsor I'm going to have, so I had no say into the R&D and the foil. I'm a customer, so I could only focus on the sails pretty much, and the masts, and generally the rig.
So is that Neil Pride sail being designed for that lifty foil, like you were saying? So is there less lift in the Pride sail this year?
Yeah, there's generally a little bit less power and a lot more release. We managed to find a way not to sacrifice a lot of the low end to gain a lot of high end, but yeah, so it definitely has that something you said. Yeah.
Okay. Just on the foil too, I don't foil myself, so when you explain things, I'm just trying to imagine what that would be like. But what about the whole concept of the foil, the way it is at the moment? It's plugged into the fin box, it's towards the rear of the board. I mean, just that whole concept of that kind of design, is that just locked in place now, or is there any scope for people going, or maybe we can completely reimagine the wheel, so to speak? Like, for example, you look at America's Cup boat, and maybe this is not relevant to a windsurf board, but they have two foils off the side. One comes down into the water and you're kind of pushing against the side, and that's just a completely different concept. So I don't know, is there any discussion about these things in the windsurf world about just that as well? Or is that the currently that is everyone just like, no, it can't be improved, that is basically, that is it kind of thing, if that makes sense?
No, it's 100% that. Honestly, I didn't think that this kind of T-foil that we have would be as good as it is now. I thought in order to cross 40 knots, in order to beat the fin and stuff, we're going to have to redesign everything. Maybe you're going to have 3 foil, like you said. America's Cup boat has 3 foils, right? 2 in front, which one lifts up, and in the rudder, the rudder sort of like a classic boat, but so there is probably possibilities, but developing something outside of the box takes so much effort and so much money that you need to be crazy enough to do it, or have, and there's been tries to emulate, for example, what America's Cup is doing, but then you run into this thing where America's Cup, they have pitch control, so their wings, you can actually move the angles of attack by hydraulics. We can't. We do that with our body. You sort of press the front foot, and then the wing tilts down, and you decrease power. You press on the back foot, the wing tilts up, and you increase power. So it's, there's going to be something sooner or later, but what it's going to be, I'm not enough of an engineer or of a visionary to understand.
Yeah, okay. Because when I watch foiling, especially at your level, obviously if someone gets a beginner foil, it all looks quite stable and just fairly straightforward. But when I watch racing, it looks to me like you guys are constantly just having to battle that trim. You're always like, oh, it's going to go down or up, and it's a constant. Would that be fair to say? Like it looks quite twitchy or something in a way.
Yeah, because the wings are tiny.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
my biggest wing is a 550 square centimeter, and it's never going to be as stable, and it's super high aspect.
That's mad, isn't it? Your biggest swing is a 550.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's like, if you look at the evolution, like you know, when we started foiling, the 800 was a high wind slalom wing, you know. And it's so and if you go somebody, if you take somebody winging for the first time, you're going to give him a 1400 or something, you know. So so the small wing is always going to be less stable for sure. And in order to generate power, we also have them really far forward. And as you know, it's the leverage is times. How do you say that? It's force is basically that lift times leverage. So imagine you hit a gust and you accelerate, and also like power rises to the second power. So basically from 2 knots of speed you generate 4 units of power, let's say. But from 3 knots of speed you already generate 9 units of power. From 4 knots of speed you generate 16 units of power. Very simply.
It's like the wind.
So when you hit a gust and you accelerate by 1 knot, you get so much more lift that you see people move forward with their body to try to control it, but still you see it, you know, you see lift, you know, and you see the sail tilting forward in order to try to put pressure on the front foot, so on the mast base. So and then you have seaweed, which once you catch a little bit of seaweed, the power of the foil decreases like crazy, you know. Like I was leading a heat, hit a bunch of seaweed, and I was scared if I'm gonna be able to fly through the last jibe and into the finish mark, you know. And it's
so I guess I could see a day one day. It's all getting a bit techie, and maybe it's not something that you guys want to get into too much. But if you look at an airplane wing, they all have flaps at the back to control stability and pitch and whatever. So I assume that is the solution to that, right? Is that to have some kind of little flap thing on the?
To me, it depends. At the high end, I like it when it's hard.
Oh yeah,
you know, like because the easier it gets, and let's say there was no crashes and no something, kind of defeat the object of it. I think, and we talked about this a lot. But then for your average guy who just wants to cruise up and down, it's a little bit different. But you kind of want that bit of human feel, like that's the bit that is the athlete, like in you, I would say.
No, for sure. No, that's fair point. I guess I'm just trying to think of like the development of foils in general. I assume that that's something that I guess
there is some self-trimming ones. I went on one in the lakes ages ago, but I still crashed it. That was meant to be self-trimming. I just want to clear up this thing. So this is about the cameras from Christoph, about the cameras, and it would be easier. The thing is, you need that wide view to be able to do the commentary, because you need to see coming into the jibe where everyone is. If you change it, it doesn't work. The best thing that can happen is they do the race like they do now, and then in the gap between that and the next race, you have a recap of the race, and then you use all those funky angles, and we see different things. I can see Maciek needs to go as well, so I think.
I kind of need to hang like 100 posters of the King of the Bay event today. So
do the shameless plug-in. Go on, time for shameless plug. King of the Bay, Poland.
19 to 22 of June, the biggest water sports festival east of France, basically. So we got already 300 participants.
Wow, that's amazing.
I saw Bolz-Muller's coming.
Yeah, Bolz-Muller is coming. I've been speaking to some old school legends as well. So follow us maybe on Instagram to see what's going on. King of the Bay.
What is the Instagram? King of the Bay.
King of the Bay, yeah. Sorry, it's King _of _ the _ Bay. So yeah, check us out. Come visit us. It's we're gonna do night racing this year as well.
Okay.
There's free beer, as Ben knows. There's a party. There are parties.
And it's Deafy Wind style, isn't it? Long sort of racing.
Yeah, it's a long distance across the bay, but it's way more fun oriented. You can try pump foiling, you can try e-foiling, you can go skimboarding, go on the mini ramp. You can.
There's windsurfing equipment to demo.
There's windsurfing equipment to demo. All sorts of brands, except Duotone. Everybody's there. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can even demo kite brands if you want, Benny. And yeah. I'm
blown away with your schedule, Maciek, with all the stuff that you do. You still have time to throw an event together, because I have a bit of an understanding now of what it takes. So hats off to you, man. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do. I love windsurfing. I want to help. I want to grow something for the future, and this came about, and all morning I was, catching up on emails and signing contracts and doing stuff. So yeah, I gotta go. So
I gotta say, I went last year, and Maciek had organized with their sponsors from Mercedes, was it? I got the full VIP treatment out of the plane. Now, this is something I've never had before. So it was kind of it was like, I know it sounds like, oh, sharp, but it was kind of a cool experience, because you're never going to do that. So I'm coming out of the plane with all these other people, and then they sort of pick you out of the line and go, oh, yeah, here's sir. So you walk down the steps off the plane into like this limo car, which takes you to a separate entrance, and then you go into this like little lounge, and it's all free drinks and food. And I'm like, oh, just sit here, sir. We'll get your bags. So I'm like, oh. And then you walk red carpet to another car.
It's really simple. 20 years of traveling to events, I pick and choose the bits that I really like and stay away from the bits I really hate. So, for instance, I hate when you feel like an organizer makes money on the competitors. So my competitors, they get free beer and free food.
Yeah.
If I'm going to an event as a quote unquote star, and I feel like I'm kind of the last in line, I hate it. So when I invite Ben, Sarakita, Tati last year, Amado, this was the crew last year, the first thing I did is we had this deal with Mercedes. They picked them up VIP, and they drove them to the old town to have a nice dinner, to go party it up a little bit before the event starts on Friday, So my whole thing is to have the absolute best on-site experience you can have. You come there, you have a ton of fun, and I believe that this will, sooner or later, this will sell. My idea is not to make money on the competitors. My idea is to get as much sponsorship as I can, and promote water sports in mainstream as much as we can that way. And so far, so good. We're gonna have, the event is gonna be an upgrade from last year, and there's more people signed up already. So stoked.
No, that's cool, man. Good job, dude.
Wow.
Good job. We'll let you go
and
put some
Thank
flyers
you guys.
out.
Good on you, Maciek.
All right.
All the best, man.
Take care.
Bye. That was cool. I actually like to learn more about all that, because it might be a cool podcast one day, Benny, where we get Maciek, Maciek would be a good one, obviously, just talking about the basics of actually running an event, because I actually get messages sometimes from people who's, they're in some country over the world, and they say, oh, Paul, we're actually about to organize a windsurf event or something or other. And, I was thinking about it, and a windsurf event is an awesome way to promote windsurfing. As obvious it sounds, but, yeah, I know it sounds silly, but, because, we talk about.
I'm not laughing at you, just laughing at you.
Yeah. No, that's cool. But but what I'm saying is, from my experience here, is you realize that locals, you're just down the beach, and all of a sudden there's a windsurf event there, and they just exposed to it, because we talk about how people get exposed to these things, but something happening, an event, is actually
I totally agree.
it's something that I sort of
It's
sounds
like an
very
extra,
obvious,
it's
but
no, but it's an extra sort of energy. It's a
yeah,
different type of energy. Like
yeah,
I was saying this the other day, like what we talked about with the IWT, you know, and the PWA combining, and now we've got this bigger kind of tour with all the different stars. And just listening to the commentary from Chile, we talked about it online, but it just hearing the commentator talking about her son after the event had been mega motivated, and so had all the other kids, you know, and it's like that just says it in itself, you know, and that's just one sort of little bit of it. And you can just imagine, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's also harnessing the power of multiple people, because, you know, you get, I mean, say in Maciek's case, you know, 300 entrants, but they, you know, they tell their stories on their social media, and they have, you know, 500 friends on Facebook, and one entrant shares their story, and all of a sudden 500 people that are not associated with windsurfing hear about it or something, you know, and that's just a spider web thing. It just ends up, you know, multiple tens of thousands of people see it. So,
well,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I was speaking to Lalo Goya last night, and I've just like reposted basically on YouTube their video about Cobra. And as I said to him, I said, look, it's already been on your channel. It's done really well, but there's no harm in putting it on Windsurfing TV, because even if it only gets a couple of extra people look at it, it's effort that you've put into this video. And it's not going to do, it's probably not going to do better on my channel, but maybe a few extra people see it, maybe a couple of hundred people see it. And that is just, you may as well do it. I don't see the downside, because not everyone sees every video. And I know the way the algorithms work, it's very difficult to do it. But I thought it was an interesting video, especially after the duotone video the week before, you know, and there's different concepts involved. And we're going to just, this is news to you, we're going to get Danny Abley on next week. I spoke to him from Duotone, who's the, I think the production manager, I think is the right term for him. And we're just going to have a chat with him. So, and then maybe in the future we'll get the Goya boys on. I don't know. We're going to do a bit of everything, you know, and any other brand that support the channel are welcome to come on, because it's always interesting hearing from the guys in the industry. Like we speak to a lot of riders, we you know, do a lot of chatting ourselves, but it's always interesting to hear from the shapers, the production guys, the brand managers. You know, they've got a lot of inside knowledge and stories I think could be really interesting. So if you have any questions for him, get them ready, because I think we're going to bring him in next week.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. I actually really enjoyed that Goya video. I was I love seeing how all that stuff's made. It gives you an appreciation for what you're getting. And also, I mean, it's a common complaint, you know, the price of windsurfing or a price of a board, and nobody loves spending as much as we do sometimes. But when you actually see what it takes to make a board, it's pretty, like, it does get
labor intensive, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It goes some way to understand what is going on. Actually, on that note too, talking about board production, the different things. What was also interesting this week was the Mario's video, wasn't it? With the board that they developed. Yeah, the White Tiger Future Fly. I thought that was interesting. I've actually just gotten to know. Yeah.
No, go on, Karen.
Oh, no, it's funny with Mario, because I had a good chat with him on the phone this week, actually. Just gotten to know the guy. And for anyone, I mean, I'm sure most of the people listening here know him. He used to call himself Surfer Ziz, but now just his channels. Sorry, what's his surname again? Mario Kumpel. Yeah, Kumpel. Yeah. So he's changed it to that. But super genuine bloke, like. Just very passionate about windsurfing, and I don't know the guy that well, but he just comes across as a very
he's a nice bloke.
Genuine,
he's super driven as well. Like when you hear how old he is, he's not old at all, you know. But he's got a head on his shoulders which is way exceeding that, and he's very focused, he's very driven. Like, you know, what the concept of him doing this board video is not a new one. You know, and I'll say this because I've had this idea. I spoke to Simmer about a wakeboard we were going to do and film all the process, but it's not so easy to do it, and it's never happened. And the cool thing is, and this is the same you'll see with Mario, he does it. he makes it happen. You
Made
know,
it happen.
he's got the
Yeah.
windsurfing shop, he's got that, the video,
Yeah.
he made it happen. And it's
Good
not
on
a
him.
quick process. It's you've got to believe in the process because it takes 12 months for it to all go in. So you've got to really believe in it. And I think I'd be really interesting to see the numbers, to see how many people buy the board, to see, because I think that is, again, as I've told Simmer before, I think this is a perfect business model marketing tool because, and it's genuine. It's not just made up for marketing. It's actually a perfect thing because people get to get involved in it. I quite would have liked the idea if they'd have done it stage by stage as well. So you'd have almost followed this process, because then I think you'd be probably more invested in it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Again, I talked about this with Simmer, which is why maybe I've got some opinions on it. But I thought it was a great production, the way they put it together. And it is also nice having it as one because it's finished. You see the end. Whereas some of those other projects, they start and then, maybe the board doesn't come out well. I've often thought about that. But that would be even better if it didn't come out right, and then it got better, and then finally you get this board. But I think we might be seeing more of these type of videos. I think this will open up some of the brands because, again, this is something I've talked about. It makes sense. It's done in other industries, but it does make sense. Like I watched it and I thought, I want to have a go on it. You want to see if what they're talking about is true. And it's like the ultimate, testing is one way of doing it, but it's even better because for the brand, because they're doing the selling and the showing everything that's involved, and people, like say, get invested.
Yeah, definitely. And on this topic about, selling and prices and so forth, this is sort of interesting, but there's a guy over here that asked me some questions about Goya boards. He was thinking about buying one. He lives on the east coast of Australia, but quite hard to come by them secondhand, especially a late model version. So he actually contacted Goya in Maui just to inquire about prices. And the new Goya boards have gone up. They're normally, according to this, I'm just reading this message, they're normally $2,450 on Maui. But they've gone up to $2,885, an extra $400 because of Trump's tariffs. But just the US though, it's not affecting because the boards are made in Cobra and then shipped to say Europe or whatever. But because these are getting imported, So unfortunately, for any of you listening from the USA territories. Unless something changes with the tariff thing, that the price of those boards have gone up by, well, I guess that's, what's that, about 15% or something? It's a fair whack, isn't it?
Chunk, that is a chunk.
Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. Obviously, the Future Fly board is going for a more direct consumer model thing.
Yeah, but you say that, but they're also selling it in shops, aren't they? Or is it a direct consumer?
Actually, that's it's a good point. Actually, I wasn't 100% sure if this was a board that's exclusively
because when he talked about it in the video, he talked about he wanted it to go into shops. But then I obviously never clicked on the link and saw the board, but maybe because he obviously owns a shop, so maybe. It could be just directly through them. I mean, that would make sense in how the video is done because they've done all the marketing, and then they could probably argue, well, all the other shops would just be making money and we've done all the work. So, and I think that's where the shops have to step up. I think the shops have to start doing more work to earn the percentage. But they're bringing the customers, I guess. But if they're not bringing the customers, it's difficult because I have heard people, brands that are not able to sell direct, putting people in contact with shops to buy their product, and they go to the shop and then the shop convinces them to buy something else because they've got it on a deal or they've got, or whatever it is. And that then the whole system starts to break down because if people are going to the brands now because all the information is on the websites and they're going, hey, where can I buy this? For example, Flywave, and they go, oh, it's a bad example because you can buy it direct. They go to Goya. Oh, where can I buy this Goya? And they say, oh, you can buy it from the shop. They go to the shop and the shop goes, oh, have you seen this duotone board? This is a problem and this will cause problems. So we'll have to see where it goes from now on. But interesting.
Definitely, yeah. And also, I didn't realize that you actually commentated from Portugal. That's cool.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah.
No, I mean, because I wasn't. Well, I mean, I didn't speak to you during the week or whatever, but it obviously sounded like you were actually there. So, does that mean you're going to be doing more events from home? I mean,
well, I don't know. I'm just setting up an office here. I've been setting it up for years, but it's finally happening. It's half built now to do this sort of stuff from. But it's still not the same. You don't get to be able to do the beach stuff. You don't get the inside knowledge as much. But in terms of actual commentary, I could imagine some sort of, I don't know how you explain them, like pop-up events where you do them on a forecast. You know, because to get me to fly in to do all this, if you can do it as we did here, I mean, we've tried it before, remote commentary, but in a very ad hoc, bad way, because we restreamed something and it wasn't the tech wasn't quite there. But all I do is commentate off the screen anyway. So for me, I can do it, and it's a lot cheaper for the organizers if they don't have to pay for my food, my accommodation, my flight, my transfers, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So for them, it works out a lot cheaper. So yeah, Chris, if it's possible.
Chris is saying here, one last question, Ben. You should have Paul commentating next year during the next home office. I actually don't think that's a good idea. And the reason is because Ben is so much higher, more knowledgeable, and his level of commentating would be so much beyond me that I wouldn't really add much to it, to be honest. It's not easy. Like commentating, it's such a skill. Like you realize if you've ever tried to actually,
I think racing is different in terms of wave sailing. Yeah, it's good having you. We've done it before, but in terms of racing, once you go, you kind of got to go, because it's such a short race. But what you do need, and what we missed in Guadeloupe, is the kind of co-commentator talk through. If you know, if you're going to get really pro, what you really want to do is, let's say I commentate the race, and then when we have the gap in between and we're looking at the replays, it's really cool to have a sailor there going, you know, talking from a very technical point of view, which is a much calmer, you know, commentary, rather than the race commentary, which is, it's very difficult to do two-person commentary on a short race like that, because you're also setting up things. And if you don't work together a lot, they can talk when you're already setting up a moment, because you can see it coming. But it can work. But for wave sailing, especially, it works.
That actually is a very good point. I think if we use slalom in the context of athletics, and you have, like, you know, how long do those races last? Like how long do they last in minutes?
Is it a couple of minutes?
A couple of minutes. So that'd be the equivalent of, say, doing a you know, an 800-meter run, or you know that kind of thing at the Olympics, where it takes a couple of minutes to do a couple of laps for them, or whatever it takes. But yeah, you don't hear two commentators generally, do you? You just hear one, I think, don't you? Because they'd just be talking over the top of each other, and unless it's a long race. So I think that's a good point. The Monkey here, he said here that Monkey 224. I haven't heard this name one before. New member of the live stream. The podcast. I don't see anyone windsurf foiling. Does the industry need to give up on it? Loads of wings, but wingers switching to windsurf in strong winds. Windsurf foiling. Do you actually see a few people doing it around where you are, Benny?
There's a few. Yeah, there's a few. Again, I can see why people go winging, especially the wave sailors, because there's a bit more freedom in it. But if you kind of had a blasting racing background, then windsurf foiling is definitely the way forward. But, you know, in terms of, I think the proof will be after a couple of years, you know, the windsurfers that are going full winging at the moment, in my experience, a lot of my friends have backed off on it a little bit. They went hard in, and then they're like, and then on the winging.
Oh, winging. Okay. Yeah.
You know, they've gone into it, they're doing the stuff, and then it's like, okay. But some of them have gone full on winging. We've talked about this before, but I think it really depends where you live and the conditions that you get. You know, if you're on super flat water, maybe, and there's a bit of a racing background around you, you're probably going to go windsurf foiling. If there's a kind of this bump and jumpy element, or there's some waves or some loose, slack waves, then winging in light winds makes a big sense, and even in stronger winds. But then if you've got decent waves, like where you live in Geraldton, and good windsurfing conditions, you're not going to give up windsurfing to go winging. It's just not happening. So I think most people that are converting over are the guys that want to mix it up. They're a bit stale. They live in a place where it's light-ish winds and there's not much happening. I think the wave sailors are not just going to give up wave sailing if they live somewhere where there's good waves. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. I find it so hard to comment on these questions, because where I live, honestly, I've been in Geraldton for 4 years, and I've seen in those 4 years, I can probably think of one day, only one in 4 seasons, that I've seen someone actually windsurf foiling here.
Yeah, because there's
one
not
day in 4 years. Yeah,
but if you went down to Perth, let's say, I don't know.
Oh, no, that's right. It's just purely because I'm in Geraldton. I find it's such a warped reality. Or I mean, like it's. I find it hard to comment on this because it's just not my world here, or what's going on here. So but we'll be interested to see how this plays out, because I do feel like it is still playing out, isn't it? Things are always shifting,
I think I still haven't given it a proper go in terms of slalom, but I'm still like, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy commenting on the foil racing. I enjoy watching the top guys do it. I really do. I think there's a massive place for it, and it really ticks a lot of boxes in terms of that high-end racing. But I am definitely a fin guy when it comes to slalom, and I love seeing high wind fin slalom as well, and just normal fin sailing. And I know there's a lot of windsurfers out there that don't even class windfoiling as windsurfing. They're like, well, it's not even the same sport. Like, don't even put it on the channel, sort of thing. Which I have actually created a new foiling channel. I've not put anything on it yet, but that is the idea, because I think there's that much of a divide where the windsurfers are like, there's definitely a chunk of them that almost see it like kiting or winging. They see it as a separate thing.
Oh. So what's that?
And then there is a crossover as well.
This channel's been launched, has it?
No. I've just made it. I just wanted to provide some content before I started going into it. And with the baby coming and everything, I haven't actually put the stuff together. But I think there's a lot to talk about in terms of foiling. It's a smaller market than the windsurfing channel at the moment, but I think there's a lot to do with it, and I think it all needs to be in one place. I didn't want, like, I could make lots of videos about foiling, but it definitely doesn't go down as well on the main channel. So I wanted to have a foiling only channel, and then the guys that are into foiling, we can all geek out over there and learn all the little bits and pieces. And if you're into it, you follow it, and if you're not into it, you don't follow it. I think that's kind of what I thought about.
Yeah,
a bit like the podcast channel. We've got a smaller community here, but the guys who follow this channel and look at the podcast are more into this sort of thing, and that's fine. We don't need to have tens of thousands of people. It can be a couple of thousand. That's fine. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised who listens to this podcast, because sometimes I look at the video a week or two later and it's had 2,000 or 3,000 views, and I think, okay, well, that's a couple of people in 10 people in every country in the world or something. But then I bump into people down the beach. Oh yeah, I watched the podcast, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've just met 5 people at my beach that watched it. So it's kind of interesting how that works.
I'm definitely a consumer of podcasts in the car now. Like, I take my daughter to school every day, and it's 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. I get to
podcasts
40 minutes. It's really good.
It's so cool, isn't it? It's made long distance driving a lot easier. Duffer call. A key aspect was that the design. So just going back to the Future Fly board, White Tiger, the Liger. A key aspect was that the design will be long lasting, so shops can know it won't be instantly discounted. That's a good point too. I do like how a lot of the brands are going for like 2-year cycles. Is that actually same with Simmer? Is it a 2-year cycle?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm a big fan of it. And you look at surfing, where they don't have graphics, and the board can be there for 5 years, and people still talk about old designs. the thing is, again, we've probably talked about this, but we talk about a lot of things and not everyone hears them all. But what I like is, does it need to be time specific? And the problem is with putting graphics on a board, it makes it very time specific. If you had a whiteboard, this White Tiger, let's say it's just totally white and it just said White Tiger or whatever, and that was it, it would never age. If all the other boards were like that, they all got to be the same. They just got to have this logo. And then it's like, no one cares. And like you say, then the shops can stock it going, well, this board is good for 5 years. You know,
well, it's a good point.
Put the money out.
Well, because the boards are basically turned into fashion items. You know what I mean? Like something that's...
Which I like as well, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's nice getting one out. You're like, ooh.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that then it comes with trends and it dates, and then all of a sudden you've got a board that's no longer in trend, and as far as the design's concerned. So no, it's interesting. Who will be the first brand? But who will be the first brand to go down that real surfing route where it's very minimal graphics on all the boards, and it just basically says the logo, whatever the brand is, and just the stats of the board. Like who will be the first brand to do that? And then it's literally not year specific. It's just, this is the model. Yeah. Because the good thing about, sorry, go. No, I was just going to say, I think that could be a thing. Yeah. And the cool thing is, one of my pet peeves with boards is if you do get have to do a repair, it's almost impossible to match the color or the design. So if you had a whiteboard, obviously can make it look pretty sick. But don't get me wrong, I actually say I do. We all love probably the boards that we've got and the colors and stuff too. So but I've got some new boards coming soon, right? So and this is the flip side of what I just said. It's like the new graphics or the new boards always feel like, ooh, it's exciting, it's fresh, and it is actually a little bit of a change of design, but even so, I don't think we should be doing them every year. I mean, I know the brands sell more stuff when they do it every year, but it also it's also difficult if you don't buy that board at the beginning of the cycle. You buy it near the end, and then a new one comes out. For example, which that can be difficult to take. And for all of us who are buying all this equipment, I know I feel a lot better knowing that I've got something that's going to be still current for 2 seasons. I used to hate that. By the time you get this, by the time my local shop gets the sale, in 2 months, there's a new one announced. And it's like, well, look at the Insta360 camera. Like, let's say you just bought the Insta360 X4 like a month ago. You'd be like, I've got the new X4, and then they bring out the X5 and you're like, shit. Yeah. Nah, slow it down. Slow. I think that's super cool. Sondre. Some new names here, which is super cool. I combine windfoiling with bump and jump free wave windsurfing. It's nice when the wind is dropping to just put the same rig on the foil board. Yeah, I've got a friend here who does that. Justin is the one, like my friend here, who's motivated me to create this foiling channel, because he's got basically a sort of freestyle board that he just sticks the foil in, and he just does downwind 360s, heli tacks and this sort of stuff, carving for, all this sort of fun, just cruisy stuff. And he just puts his wave sail on it, and he's loving it. And he doesn't want to go winging. It's just not his thing. I wouldn't actually mind having I've never actually had a go on a wind foil. That's a video right there. I'm sure man, oh my God, that'll be probably the end of me. Also, I just skipped this message, but it's worth putting up. Try and pronounce that name. Vivosik. Might be worth adding that Sarah is doing an awesome job too. And I guess he's referring to Sarah Jackson, who does all the social media. She's so on it,
machine.
Just pumped.
Honestly, I've worked with her for a bit, but she is on it. She is on it. She's also thinking ahead, which a lot of the people you sometimes work with, you're like trying to tell them, make sure you do this, but she's already thinking ahead, which, like, for me on the commentating or whatever, it's mad. I don't know how she does everything, to be fair. She's doing
some people have a real
jobs.
knack for it, isn't it? Yeah.
I haven't got that.
But yeah, no, it's that's actually how I saw a lot of the stuff from Guadeloupe, was because of Sarah's posts and all that social media. It's a thankless job. You know, it's a lot.
Now, she's revolutionized it. I think she's doing a great job. She's going to be headhunted for some people, because she was working for Duotone before, but she's just got this repetition which doesn't waver. It's like bang, 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 bang. And you need, like, social media wise, you need to be like that. You've got to find those moments. And like I said, I don't think there's many people that could do that job. I genuinely think that, because you've got to have the knowledge, you've got to have the understanding. You know, she's raced at the high level as well, and she knows the riders, and there's not many people in that position. And then with that work ethic, because you've got to have a work ethic to do that, and you're not getting paid millions, that's for sure. So it's like it's a tough one. I don't know how long you can do that job for before you get burnt out. But we'll see. I hope for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, that just reminds me too, and people probably get annoyed when people say this, but I will repeat it in case you're not aware. But talking about social media and getting it out there, I noticed we have 2 people, we're 44 viewers at the moment, and 2 people have given the thumbs up. But if you guys who are listening can actually just hit that like button, because I was watching a video the other day, and I was talking about the algorithm of YouTube and how, you know, it decides what it pushes and what it doesn't. And the thumbs up is obviously one key component. You know, if people are really liking something, it obviously thinks that it's popular and it'll push it further. So,
or comments are good.
And comments too. Yeah, any interaction with the video.
Yeah,
you know, So
I never really look at the thumbs up, but if there's good engagement in the comments, which can be as simple as good job, whatever, but it's also, as a creator, I don't like using that word, but as a whatever, you know, like reading the comments is always fun, because you feel like people are watching. You can see the views, and that's one thing. But even if you have a video with not many views and there's lots of comments, you feel like okay, people were interested in it. And even if it's slightly negative, you know, don't go too deep, because I don't think my ego can handle it. But, you know, we can take some constructive criticism.
Well, look, I think on your videos, Ben, I think everyone should comment except Dave Wave, right? Was it Dave?
I can't remember. I think it's
Dave Wave. If you're listening, you're pestering Benny. That's awesome, because I see him on your comments.
I always love a little bit of like banter, but I get a bit emotionally involved sometimes. And I've made a mistake before of reading a comment wrongly and gone in on it, like blah, 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 and then I've reread it. Oh shit, he wasn't actually saying that. You know, it's like, oh god.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I love the comments. I think it's great. You always learn something as well. Just quickly, Betty, do you have to run, or have you got a few more minutes?
Yeah, I was meant to go sailing. I've got to do some water speed stuff. Hey, if you are watching this and you haven't signed up to Water Speed, get on it, because we're going to go for some good stuff soon. So get involved. I'm also starting. I started a WhatsApp group for this Water Speed challenge, but I've been hesitant of turning it into a community, whatever that is, on WhatsApp. I am going to do that, because then I get this announcement channel, and I'm going to have a Send It Sunday thing and a podcast one, because there's just so much chat that it gets lost. And I think there might be a benefit in having these channels. Now, I would suggest turning off like all notifications, and you just chip in and have a look, because otherwise it can be annoying, I can imagine.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make sure you do that if you do join the WhatsApp group, or you can leave it on. That depends on how busy your phone is or your life is. And also, maybe don't save the pictures to your photo file, because if there's a lot of people sending in stuff, you're going to fill up your phone pretty quickly. But you can do all that in the settings, just so you know. But I will be doing that later.
How's that going? How many members have you got or they've joined in on that?
I think there's like 200 or something, but I only did it on the first bit. But now, because there's a lot of GPS like techie talk in there, we kind of need to separate that from the average sessions and the bit of community banter. So I think like someone suggested it in the channel that we have a separate one and maybe it should be a community. I've never really been into these community things, so it might be a disaster, but I will find out, I guess.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Actually, I was talking to somebody on the beach here, and they said they were actually they were just about to hit the water to do that challenge. But
but you should, are you in? Are you in?
No, because I don't know. I mean, I've just got wave gear, I guess.
That's all okay, but there's gonna be. I'm trying to get the water speed guys to add like wave gear or multi-fin or stuff like this, because it would be interesting if there was like a category and you could kind of rank yourself. And obviously we have to kind of hope that everyone's honest and they're not jumping on the slalom board and entering it as a multi-fin or, you know, something like this. But I think in this sort of level, no one's trying to, I don't know.
Yeah.
But in theory, it would be cool.
But just to be clear on it, you need you need a mobile, like you need a mobile phone on you, right?
Well, with a water speed, you can have your mobile phone, your Android or your iPhone in a waterproof pouch. You can have that because it's a sailing app and it's everything app. It does everything. So it was first made for boats. So you'd have your phone on you and you turn it on and it does all that. But then now it's kind of morphed into all these other water sports. So now you can, if you've got a GPS watch, then afterwards it will sync the data with water speed. So not every watch, you have to take the data off manually, but the Garmin watch, it just automatically syncs over. So there is that. But a lot of people these days who, you know, are into sports have got a GPS watch. So it is more for those guys, or if they want to put your phone in, it can also work as a.
Oh, I see. So, but do you actually need mobile reception, or does it just get
no.
Oh, you don't.
Well,
so, but
actually, I say no. I don't know. I think as long as it's got GPS data, how does that work? Does it need?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, because the reason I ask is because we're, you know, like, for example, at Coros, it's crappy.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't need. It doesn't need phone signal. Can't do because the watch doesn't need phone signal.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Oh well, I'll definitely keep it in mind. But all right. Well, I'll let you go, Ben. You can hit the water, mate.
Now let's go and see what we've got going on. All right, dudes. Good to chat.
Yep. Next week, Pete Cabrina.
I have been. Oh, wait, hang on. I have been. Sorry. I'm crying. Yeah.
Well, do you reckon we can get him on before he dies, Benny?
Oh God, I'm fully crying here. Pete, yeah. Poor Pete. We do.
There's no respect, eh? Absolutely zero respect, Benny.
We will be getting him on. I'm sure about it. Oh shit! Oh, my stomach's hurting. Just for anyone who doesn't.
You just let me know when you're ready, huh?
I hope no one thinks I'm taking the piss here, but if you've been following the podcast, you'll understand the joke here. But yeah.
Do you want to explain the joke? Or?
Sorry. Oh man, my stomach is burning. Okay. Right. What I was going to say before the Pete Cabrina mention was I have got this like goal to maybe boost the channel where we do a podcast every day for a week.
Whoo. 1 week. Okay.
Just to get some like bang, 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 bang.
Boom, boom. Like a Joe Rogan thing.
Maybe. I don't know how it works.
Monday to Friday.
I was just about to say that, and then you mentioned the Pete Cabrina, and I was just thinking the irony of me saying we're going to do one every week. We're on it, and then the Pete Cabrina one just had me. Had me.
Dude, we have to get seriously. Can we try and get like? Can we try and like? Just let me know over the next few weeks if we can, because I got to reach out to him. Who knows? Maybe he's not available, but
He's probably
honestly,
now.
dude, I almost think about this bloke every day because I'm like, I have to get it done. All right. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
That's good luck with that. Let's see. Okay. Goodbye.
All right, guys. We'll see you all next time. See ya.
It's that time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of Ben. No need to stress in the house, is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the wind biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. Cars PWA, we're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.